Yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much for tuning in for another edition of the Single Life. Um, Listen, when I tell you all, no, oh, listen, first, stop. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let me start there. I apologize. I'm super excited about today's message, so I don't want to move too fast. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, locking in, and your continued support of both platforms, the Single Life and My Plate, My Choice. I appreciate you all dearly for that. Listen, today I got some things that I want us to go over, and I'm just really, really, really excited and ready to dive into it. And I hope you all are able to process it and give me a little latitude so we can paint. You guys know I love to paint with a very broad brush and then come back and do the fine tuning. So hopefully you guys will give me, some time to work through this. Not time like that, but time to work through it. So listen, last week we talked about being developed. Our topic has been faith developed, right? And understanding that we are in his image. That's the big thing, right? Understanding that we were created in his image. So our foundational text has been Genesis 1:26, and I want to get there again today. The foundational text, Genesis 1:26. I apologize. Yeah, here we go. All right. So the foundational text for where we've been going is Genesis 1:26. Y'all know I'm reading out of the NLT. That's the version that I love the most, which says, Then God said, Let us make human beings in our image to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, right? So we've got to understand that we were what? Created in his image, right? Say that to yourself. I was created in his image, okay? Created in his image. All right. So that's where we're starting, all right? I need you to understand or start to begin to understand, begin to see yourself in the way that God called you. God said you're created in his image. So in order for us to get an understanding of that, we've got to truly start to process or form in our minds, who is God, right? We know, oh yeah, God, I love you, God, I worship you, God, I reverence you, all those things. But who really is God? That's the thing that we've got to start to hammer down, right? I don't know if you all have ever been pulled over before. I have, right? And I noticed that each and every time I've been pulled over, never gone to jail, but definitely been pulled over. Each and every time I've been pulled over, right? They say one thing. As soon as they walk to the car, they ask one question. I need your license and registration, right? Anybody that's been pulled over, you know that. License and registration. Now, let's be honest. We all know that as the police officer is riding behind you, they're running your tag, right? They are running your tag. So by the time they start to walk to your car, they already have an idea of who should be driving said car, right? So when they ask for your license and registration, the reason why they're asking for that license is because they need to validate who you are and make sure that you are the appropriate person that should be driving the car. Much like God has already validated who we are, he's just waiting on us to check the ID and realize who we are. He's already validated you. He validated you when he said you were made in my image. That's your identification, right? So when you go places, you fly, you travel, you got to show your passport, you got to show your ID to show who you are. God says, I've already stamped you for who you are when I stamped you and said in Genesis 1:26, you were made in my image. Okay, let's paint then. Let's paint. Let's paint. Let's get to work today. All right. So it is important for us to understand this, who he is. Let's look at Genesis. And guys, listen, it's almost I was reading this and I couldn't wait last week. I couldn't wait to get to work and talk to my mom about this scripture because I read this and it just hit me in another way that I had not seen before. Genesis 6:19 through 22. Okay. Genesis 6:19 through 22. Now we're reading about Noah. And we've read about Noah. We know this story in our sleep. You've read this story to your children. You know this story, but I need you to listen to me today, right? Listen to me, right? Verse 19. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Verse 20. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. Now, when you read that, like, yeah, okay, you just hear that. God's giving Noah instruction. Noah's going to follow the instruction, right? Because the most important part is verse 22. Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him. Now, there's revelation in that because God gives us instruction all the time. But the question on the table is, are we doing it exactly as God commanded us to do it? God gives us instruction. God didn't give leeway for us to make edits, right? Like if I was to create a note and I shared the note with you all you all will have the opportunity to go in and make edits, right? You can make edits. God doesn't need edits to instruction that he gives. He just needs us to do just as Noah did and do everything exactly as he has commanded us, right? So cool. So I read that to you. You probably heard that and nothing jumped off the page to you, right? Nothing jumped off the page. I'm going to tell you what jumped off the page to me when I read it. I'll read it again. Verse 20. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. Now let's think about this, right? So in reading this, you've got to understand Noah's given a job, Noah's given a task, right? We know the big task was to build the ark. We got that part, right? So here we are now. Noah's given this task, and God says, now I need you to take these animals on board. Every animal that is on the earth, Noah has the responsibility of bringing them on the ark. Two of them, male and female. Now I need you to let's think about something real quick. Use your spiritual imagination, please. Noah has not seen every animal that's on the earth. Noah doesn't even have knowledge of every animal on the earth yet. He doesn't have knowledge because at this point, two people know everything that's on the earth. That is Adam, because Adam named, we know a few pages before this, Adam named every animal on the earth. So God and Adam are the only two that know every animal. So for Noah, you got to think about it. When God gives you a task, when God gives you a task, right? Your job is not to analyze the how. Your job is to just carry out the assignment just as God commanded you. Noah didn't have to figure out, well, God, how am I going to get all these animals? And how am I going to know? And how am I going to catch them? See, that's us in 2025. That's us. God gives us instruction and we start trying to figure out the workaround. God, how are we going to do it? God, how is this going to work? God, how? That's not our job, because here's what jumps off the page in verse 20. Will come to you to be kept alive. Every animal came to Noah to be kept alive. Now I'm going to ask y'all this question. Like, listen, this right here is so powerful. Every animal came to Noah to be kept alive. You're not really processing that. Every animal walked to Noah. Wherever Noah was with the ark, the animals came there. Now, let me help you understand on a deeper level, because we got to understand we are created in his image. And in his image, what is that image? God's image is I can do whatever I desire to do, and it doesn't have to make sense, and it's never going to make sense. I don't care how you think. I don't care how you process it. It won't make sense to you because I'm God and I'm supreme. I'm above you, right? So you've got to say, God talked to every animal in a language that they were able to understand and follow. God spoke horse. God spoke bear. God spoke dog. God spoke lizard. God spoke snake. God spoke giraffe. God spoke donkey. God spoke God spoke squirrel. God spoke chipmunk. God spoke it. God spoke lion. God spoke leopard. God spoke cheetah. God spoke it. God spoke zebra. God spoke gorilla. God spoke monkey. God spoke orangutan. God spoke, and the animals had no choice but to respond because God spoke to them. See, when you understand I'm created in his image, God said, you like me. So what in this earth can you not speak to and declare it as so? God spoke animal, and the animals had intelligence enough to respond. And then God said, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to put a GPS system in the animals that's going to tell them exactly where to go. Now you got to understand this. And here's another revelation that you're going to have to get for your life, right? A lot of animals. I watch National Geographic a lot. I love watching about animals and learning about animals, right? And so I understand a lot of animals hunt in packs. They stay together. A lion has a pride of lions, right? I don't know the specific name for elephants, but elephants walk in a pack, right? A lot of animals, they move in a pack. God said something to two of them, a male and a female, and they had to communicate to the others in a way that said, I'm leaving y'all and y'all cannot follow me. That's something for you to understand, that right now in this time in your life, you can't take everybody with you. Even the animals understood, I got to leave my kids right now. I got to leave my mom and dad. I got to leave the pack. I've got to separate because God is calling me to something. See, in this single phase of life, God is calling you to something. How will you respond? How will you respond? The animals didn't hesitate. God told them and they went. I read this so many times and I never thought about that God had to speak to the animals because Noah didn't go grab them. And do you understand that when God gave Noah these instructions, Noah's mind, do you understand how large of a concept that is to understand when God says, go get all these animals and you don't even know all the animals. And God said, get them. And God said, you're going to take them on the ark with you. Noah might be trying to figure out, how am I going to catch? I'm not even a skill hunter. I'm not Steve Irwin. I'm not the crocodile hunter. I'm not a zookeeper. I don't know how to get these animals. It wasn't for him to know. It wasn't for him to know. The only thing that he was called to do was to be obedient. In the single phase of your life, I do not care I don't care if you 80. In the single phase of your life, God is calling you to something, and your job is to respond to it. It's that simple. Your job is to respond to the call. But don't worry, I'm gonna help you. Let's go a little deeper. Let me make sure I'm staying on track. Yes, right? So boom. Okay, so let me give y'all this, because just in case you might have questioned, I wanted you to understand this, right? Because God sent the animals in verse 6. What was that? Genesis 6, 19 through 22. God sent the animals. But as I was reading, when I was studying this, I said, God, that's not your first time doing it. That's not your first time doing it. That wasn't his first time doing it. God shows us, again, we're trying to understand what it means to be created in his image. So if we are created in his image, I must understand, what is his image? Don't worry, I got you. I talked about this so many times and never even grasped this concept. Genesis 3, verse 18. Then the Lord God said, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him. Verse 19. So the Lord God formed from the ground all the wild animals and all the birds of the sky. He brought them to the man to see what he would call them. I told you, Adam named all the animals to see what he would call them. But listen, go back. He brought them to the man. God formed every animal that you see on this earth. Every animal, do you understand that we live in 2025 and that scientists and I don't know what you call the people that study animals. But anyway, so there's gonna be scientists, for lack of a better word, today, right? And scientists are still discovering animals. How, sir, are you discovering something that was already put here in Genesis verse 2? My bad. I told y'all verse 3, my bad. Genesis verse 2 and 19. God formed the animals. God didn't form them again later on. We don't see anywhere else where it says God started forming animals again. God formed the animals in Genesis verse 2 and 19. He formed them. He made them. He created them. So every scientist that discovers an animal right now, you didn't discover it, sir. Adam already named it. Adam already named it. And God brought them to him. Just like we get to Noah, and God brought the animals to him. So God shows you that I have control over everything. I have control over your finances. I have control over your health. I have control over your job. I have control over your spouse. I have control over your future spouse. I have control over your relationship. I have control over it. So if God has control over it, why am I trying to figure out what to do next? My job is to do what Noah did. Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him. It's very simple. It's very simple. But don't worry about it. Let's get to Genesis 7. Yeah, Genesis, I jumped to 6. Now we're going to go to verse 7. I want you to understand this. Genesis 7, verse 2. Take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the others. Also, take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and female in each pair to ensure that life will survive on earth after the flood. Think about this right now, please. How do you catch a bird, Noah? How do you catch 1 bird, much less 2 of every species? It wasn't his job to figure it out. See, Noah understood who God was. So his job was to just submit to God's authority. We are so intelligent with all of our degrees and all of our common sense and all of our life experience that we think we can outthink or tell God how to do his plan. See, that's why some of us still in the single phase, because we keep trying to tell God how to do his plan when we should just submit as Noah did and understand who God is. Okay, let me ask you a question. How would you dictate, or how would you, with your intelligence right now, how would you decipher what bird is a male and what bird is a female if you've never even seen the birds before? You've never even seen these species of birds. How do you know what's a male and a female? It's not my job to know. God said build the ark, I'm gonna build it. God said be here on this day, I'm gonna be here on this day. God said do like that's what that was Noah's response. You think I'm lying? Verse 5. Genesis 7, verse 5. So Noah did everything, not some of the things, not part of the things, not a few of the things. Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. See, that's where we keep missing it in this single phase. We are not doing everything. We want to do partial things. I want to create this gray area. I want to go to church, but I want to still have fun. I want to live for God, but I want to still live in sin. I want to do what God told me to do, but I want to still do what I want to do. That's not where Noah was. Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. Again, what will your response be? Also, take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and female of each pair to ensure the life will survive on the earth. Boom. Okay, now we're not even going to talk about Noah's age. I want to talk about that, but we're not going to talk about that. I want to jump down to verse 9. Genesis 7, verse 9. They entered the boat in pairs, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. How did the animals know to line up in pairs? See, we read over this story and we never even take the time to think about that. How did the animals know to line up 2 by 2? How did they know? See, when you go on a cruise, when you go on a cruise, right? When you go on a cruise, they have markers. They have signs. They have things taped off to tell you where to go. If you're staying in this type of cabin, go here. If you're staying in that cabin, go here. If you've already gone through these checks, go over there. If you haven't yet gone through this check, go here, right? Go. They have markers, signage, things for us to follow instruction. I'm asking y'all, you all, everyone, us, how the heck did the animals know to line up 2 by 2, male and female, with an animal that looked like them? How did they know that? How come when they got there, it wasn't just chaotic free-for-all? Because these are animals that we're talking about. These are animals that we're talking about. We're not talking about human beings. Animals know how to submit and follow God, but we keep having an issue when God gives us instruction. We keep giving pushback. And God is telling you, baby, listen, you got to understand who I am. I told the animals what to do. I gave them instruction, and they followed instruction better than you with your 4 or 5 degrees. That's another conversation for another day. Because listen, I'm trying, I got to get somewhere real quick. All right. I want to skip down to verse 14. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, along with birds of every kind, which means Noah had done something that he didn't even have knowledge to do. Noah brought in every animal that was walking on the face of the earth simply by being obedient. What will you do in your life simply by being obedient to God's call? What will change? What nations will you change? Like, I don't want to hear another person complain about politics or the president, because it will change when we start being obedient and responding to God's call. I'm not going to live in fear. I serve this God. I don't know what God you serve, but I serve this one. So when I read about who my God is, man, I don't care what that man is doing. I'm going to pray about it, and I'm going to keep serving my God, because he is not powerful than him. This the real him. Okay, listen. So verse 15, two by two, they came into the boat representing every living thing that breathes. A male and a female of each kind entered, just as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind him. So the Lord wasn't going to close the door until the instructions had been fulfilled. But it gives you emphasis on how the animals came in. That wasn't in there just for context because they needed words to fill a page. That was in there so you could show or understand, so it could show, and for you to understand how much God pays attention to detail. There is not an area in your life that God doesn't have his eye on. There is not a thing that you have hidden from God. There's not something that you're dealing with that God has not shown you right here in the text. I understand that. I understand what you're going through. I understand what you're battling, but just submit to me. I understand what you're dealing with your family, but just submit to me. I understand those things you battle emotionally, but just submit to me. And if an animal can submit, if a lion, the most ferocious, the lion is called the king of the jungle. Can y'all imagine what Noah looked like when a lion, two of them, well, a lion and a lioness, because we know the lioness are the ones that do the hunting, right? They go kill and the lion just comes to eat, right? So listen, when a lion and a lioness comes walking up to him, y'all got to imagine, what was Noah looking like? See, God is going to give you some things. He's going to call you to do some things that are going to be much larger than your imagination can even consume, because he said, my thoughts are not your thoughts, which means he's going to call you to something that's for somebody. He's going to call you to something far greater than you can even imagine. But will you submit in obedience? Because he didn't call you for you. He called you for his joy. He called you to do something new in his people. He called you to make a mark in this world for him. My mom and I were having a conversation early this morning, about our obligation to serve God. Everything that God does for us is for us to serve him. It's not for us to glorify us. It's for us to serve him. So my job is to understand who he is. And then I have a better understanding of who I am. And then I can start trying to talk about being married, because now I know who I am, right? You know, ladies who have a daughter, you would tell your daughter, baby, you don't need to be trying to be with a man until you understand who you are first. Because if you don't understand who you are first, he will tell you who you are. Just like in 2025, if we don't understand who God called us to be and the purpose that he put in us, we'll let the world tell us what we are. And the world is not more powerful than God. He has defeated the world. Y'all know the song, he's got the whole world in his hands. How can the world tell me what I am and the man who... Okay, listen. Have y'all ever tried to show somebody something? You ever tried to show somebody something, and while you're trying to show them, they're not paying attention, and they looking somewhere else, and then you have to like rewind it if you're trying to show them a video, or like slow down and circle back around again? You know how frustrating that is. What? God gave us a whole manual to show us who he is present tense. God gave us an entire manual to show us who he is, and we still just as lost and confused. We keep missing it. God's like, listen, read, you looking over here. God's like, no, it's here though. Okay, you don't believe me? I know I just gave you Old Testament. So listen, when I read this, I was so excited. I called my mom and said, Mom, are you in your office? And I was like, I came. As soon as I came, I got to say, Mom, listen, I need you to sit down. Now my mom and I've just been in a different place, and my mom and I spend so much time just talking about the word now. And she said, son, because I was like, Mom, I can't let this go, understanding that God talked to these animals and God spoke a language that all the animals understood and they knew to respond. I just could not wrap my mind around that and understanding how powerful God is. So if you got a health issue, why would you think that cancer is stronger than God and God talked to animals? Why would you think that debt is greater than God and God talked to the animals? Why would you like why? Why? Because you don't understand yet who your God is. You worship God every day and don't know who he is. Because if you started to know who he is, you will respond differently. I'm not going to respond in fear. Why? Because I know who my God is. Oh, you not hurt by that? No. Why? Because I know who my God is. And I know what my God said. And I know his word is true and it cannot return void. What? Get serious. Listen, 2 Corinthians 9:8. I need you to go in the Amplified though. 2 Corinthians 9:8. So when I shared that with my mom, she was like, okay, but let me take you to this. She said, son, this is what I've been on all weekend. 2 Corinthians 9:8 in the Amplified. And I'm closing right here. Are y'all there? Are you there? 2 Corinthians 9:8 in the Amplified. I'm going to give you a second to get there. If you have a Bible, if you don't, I'm going to just read it to you. Don't worry. I got you. 2 Corinthians 9:8 in the Amplified said, and God is able to make all grace, every favor, and earthly blessing come in abundance to you. Stop, pause, freeze. What did it say? He's able to make it come to you. What did we just learn about today? He made the animals come to Adam so that Adam could name them. He made the animals come to Noah so that he could put them on the ark. And now he says, let me help you with your human self. I will make all grace, every favor, every favor, not one favor. See, like if you see somebody get a house debt free, that wasn't just one. God said every favor and earthly blessing come in abundance to you, not just come to you. That's what makes God so awesome, that he didn't just say, yeah, I'll make it come. He said, I'm going to make it come in abundance to you. I'm going to make it come in abundance. The word abundance means to overflow. Abundance means you can't hold it all. You can't keep it all. You can't. Every earthly blessing come in abundance to you so that you may always, under all circumstances, regardless of the need, have complete sufficiency in everything, being completely self-sufficient in him. Do you understand how powerful that is? So that you may always, under all circumstances. That means whatever goes on tomorrow, whatever goes on next week, whatever goes on this afternoon, whatever goes on at the end of today, whatever goes on tonight, whatever happens in your job, whatever happens in your family, whatever happens in 2025. This is why we don't move in fear, because we understand. He already said, under all circumstances, regardless of the need. Regardless of the need. You mean it doesn't matter? Regardless of the need, have complete sufficiency in everything, being completely self-sufficient in him. That means everything that I need is in God. Completely self-sufficient in him, not in me, not in my paycheck that comes on the 15th and the 30th, not on the income taxes that's coming, not in any of that. I'm not self-sufficient in any of those things. I'm completely sufficient in God. See, that's another problem, that in this single phase, we keep trying to be self-sufficient in a man. We're trying to be self-sufficient in a woman. We're trying to be sufficient in a job because you got a good job that you make X amount of dollars. You trying to be sufficient in that. And God said, no, boo-boo. You're supposed to be sufficient in me. In me as God, understanding that I will provide everything, already provided everything that you need. The word says under all circumstances, it don't matter. And listen, hold on. And have complete sufficiency in everything, being completely self-sufficient in him, and have an abundance for every good work and act of charity. What does that mean? See, God blesses us not for us, that's why we can't move from this stage, Because every time we see something, every time God does something, we don't give him the glory. We make it like we did it. Oh yeah, I got that job because they saw my work and they saw how beneficial I am to the company. That's why they promoted me. No, it wasn't. No, you're not. No, they didn't. Oh man, I got my husband because I'm just an excellent wife. Or I got my wife because I'm just so suave of a husband. She couldn't. No, it wasn't that. My sufficiency will never come in this world. My reward is not the world. It is my sufficiency in God. If you would just understand that and be obedient and move in that way, that your sufficiency is in God, not you. It's never going to be you. It's never going to be because of you. It's because of God. So our sufficiency is in God for us to do what? Go and be a blessing to his people. It's not for me to sit up on a mountain for me. I don't need to glorify me. I'm nobody. I'm regular. It ain't about me. It's about him. I'm regular. I don't need a platform. I don't need this platform to tell you about God. I will tell you, I tell the kids every time, whether it's 1, whether it's 31, it doesn't matter. You have an opportunity to move as God has called you to move. Don't wait on it. God gave you instruction. Respond in obedience. Don't respond in fear. Don't respond and ask God how. We never in the word understand or see where God gave somebody instruction and they said how. They said how. You didn't see where Noah looked at God and said, why me? Because you're chosen. Because see, I understand the value of your life. You haven't yet realized it yet. I understand how purposed you are. You haven't yet realized it yet. I understand how special you are. You haven't yet realized it yet. Because when you do, you won't look at God and say, God, why me? You look at God and say, thank you. God, thank you for the opportunity, and I won't let you down. God, thank you for the grace that you've given me to complete the assignment. That's what this phase is about. This phase, the single life, is about serving God. And through serving God, our obedience to him, we get access to the next level. I don't want to get access to the next level just because I married somebody only to come back to this level. I don't want to do that. Not me, and nothing against anybody that has done that. We all make mistakes, but it's time for us to start getting a revelation of who God called us to be. I've had you all for long enough. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys have a phenomenal week. And I hope you guys take this, chew on this, spend time in it, understand. It's only, listen, your understanding of who God called you to be won't come if you don't spend time with him. If you're not spending time with him, you won't have a revelation. Like as I read the text, it's not that I'm reading with like a different prescription now. I'm just reading with a different connection with God because of the time that we spend. And God begins to show things to me that I just never saw before on the simplest text. Y'all be blessed. Have an amazing week. Man, I love you.